Job. Chapter 38. Then Jehovah answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now your loins like a mighty man, for I will ask of you, and you shall inform me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who set its measurements if you know? Or who stretched the measuring line over it? Onto what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. And who hedged in the sea with doors when it burst forth, issuing from the womb? When I made clouds its clothing and deep darkness its swaddling clothes. And I broke out my boundaries for it and set up bars and doors. And I said, To here you shall come and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stopped. Have you ever commanded the morning since your days began? Have you ever caused the dawn to know its place? So that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked might be shaken out of it? The earth is changed like clay under a seal, and all things on it stand forth like a garment. And from the wicked their light is withheld, and the high arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or have you walked about in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the full expanse of the earth? Declare it, if you know it all. Where is the way to the dwelling of the light? And the darkness, where is its place? That you may take it to its boundary, and that you may perceive the paths to its house. You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered into the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail? Which I have reserved for the day of calamity, for the day of battle and of war. Where is the way to the place where the light is divided, to the place where the east wind scatters upon the earth? Who cut a channel for the rain torrent, or a way for the thunderbolt? To make it rain on a land where no man is, on a wilderness in which there is no man. To satisfy the waste and desolate land and to cause the shoots of grass to sprout. Does the rain have a father? Or who begot the drops of dew? From whose womb does the ice come forth? And the frost of heaven, who gave birth to it? The waters hide themselves and become like stone, and the surface of the deep is frozen. Can you fasten the bands of the Pleiades, or loosen the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season? Or can you guide the bear with its cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens? Do you establish their rule on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, so that a flood of water would cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, so that they would go and say to you, Here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can tip over the water jars of heaven? When the dust runs into a mass and the clods stick together? Can you hunt prey for the lioness, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions? When they crouch in their dens, when they lie in wait in the thicket? Who provides for the raven its prey when its young ones cry out to God and wander about for lack of food? Job. Chapter 39. Do you know the time when the mountain goats bring forth? Can you mark the time when the hinds calve? Can you number the months that they must fulfill? Or do you know the time when they bring forth? They crouch down, they give birth to their young ones, they send forth their offspring. Their young become strong, they grow up in the open field, they go forth and do not return to them. Who has sent out the wild ass free? Or who has loosed the bonds of the swift ass? Whose home I have made the wilderness, and the salt land, his dwelling place. He scorns the tumult of the city, he does not hear the shouts of the driver. He searches out the mountains for his pasture and seeks after every green thing. Will the wild ox be willing to serve you or spend the night by your manger? Can you bind the wild ox to the furrows with his ropes? Or will he plow the valleys behind you? Will you trust in him because his strength is great? Or will you leave your labor to him? Will you have confidence in him that he will bring in your seed and gather your grain to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich flap joyously, are they the pinion and plumage of loving kindness? For she leaves her eggs on the earth and warms them in the dust. And she forgets that a foot may crush them or that an animal of the field may trample them. She is hard with her children, as if they were not hers, though her labor may be in vain, she has no fear. Because God has caused her to forget wisdom and has not appointed understanding to her. At that time when she lifts herself up on high, she scorns the horse and its rider. Have you given the horse his might? Have you clothed his neck with the quivering mane? Have you made him to leap like a locust? His majestic snorting is terrible. He paws in the valley, and he rejoices in his strength, he goes forth to meet weapons. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed, and he does not turn back from the sword. A quiver of arrows rattles against him, the flashing spear and the javelin. With fierceness and rage he swallows the ground, and he is not stilled by the sound of the trumpet. As often as the trumpet sounds, he says, "Aha!" And from afar he smells the battle, the thundering of captains and the shouting. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars, stretching his wings to the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? On the cliff he dwells and makes his lodging, upon the point of the cliff and the stronghold. From there he spies out food, his eyes gaze on it from afar. And his young ones suck up the blood, and where the slain are, there he is. Job. Chapter 40. And Jehovah answered Job and said, Shall one who finds fault contend with the Almighty? Let him who argues with God answer it. Then Job answered Jehovah and said, Indeed, I am worthless. What shall I reply to you? I lay my hand over my mouth. I have spoken once, and I will not answer, and twice, and I will proceed no further. And Jehovah answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Gird up now your loins like a mighty man, for I will ask of you, and you shall inform me. Will you indeed annul my judgment? Will you condemn me so that you may be justified? Or do you have an arm like God's, and can you thunder with a voice like his? Deck yourself now with majesty and excellency, and array yourself with honor and splendor. Pour forth the overflowings of your anger, and look upon everyone who is proud, and abase him. Look upon everyone who is proud, bring him down, and tread down the wicked where they stand. Hide them in the dust together, bind their faces in the hidden place. Then even I will praise you, that your own right hand can save you. Behold now the behemoth, which I made as well as you, he eats grass like the ox. Behold now, his strength is in his loins, and his power is in the muscles of his belly. He bends his tail like a cedar, the sinews of his thighs knit together. His bones are like bronze tubes, his limbs, like iron bars. He is the first of God's ways, only his Maker can approach him with his sword. For the mountains yield food for him, where every animal of the field plays. Under the lotus plants he lies down, in the covert of the reed and the marsh. The lotus plants cover him with their shade, the willows of the brooks surround him. Indeed, if a river overflows, he does not tremble, he is confident, though the Jordan rushes against his mouth. Will anyone catch him while he is watching, or pierce his nose with a snare? Job. Chapter 41. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications unto you, or speak soft words to you? Will he make a covenant with you that you would take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird, or bind him for your maidens? Will the traders bargain over him? Will they divide him up among merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him, and remember the battle, you will never do it again. Indeed, any hope for him is vain, will not one be even cast down at the sight of him? No one is so fierce as to stir him up. Who then is he who would stand before me? Who has first given to me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not be silent about his limbs or about the account of his mighty deeds or about the beauty of his frame. Who can strip off his outer garment? Who can go within his double jaws? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth is terror. His pride is his rows of scales, shut up as with a tight seal. One is so near the other that the air cannot pass between them. Each is joined to the other, they stick together and cannot be separated. His sneezes flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go forth flaming torches, sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils comes smoke, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame comes from his mouth. In his neck abides strength, and terror dances before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together, they are firm upon him and immovable. His heart is as firm as stone, indeed as firm as the lower millstone. At his rising up, the mighty fear, they are beside themselves with consternation. The sword that reaches him cannot avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He considers iron shafts as straw, and bronze ones as rotted wood. The arrow does not make him flee, with him sling stones turn to stubble. Clubs are considered as stubble, he laughs at the quivering javelin. His underparts are like sharp potsherds, he spreads himself like a threshing sledge upon the mire. He makes the deep boil like a cauldron, he makes the sea like a pot of ointment. Behind him he makes a shining wake, one would think the deep to be white-haired. On earth there is none his equal, who is made without fear. He beholds everything that is high, he is king over all the sons of pride. Job. Chapter 42. Then Job answered Jehovah and said, I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be restrained. Who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Hear now, and I will speak, I will ask of you, and you shall inform me. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye has seen you. Therefore I abhor myself, and I repent in dust and ashes. And after Jehovah had spoken these words to Job, Jehovah said to Eliphaz the Temanite, My anger is kindled against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken concerning me that which is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore take for yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer them as a burnt offering for yourselves. And my servant Job will pray for you, for I will accept him, so that I do not deal with you according to your folly, for you have not spoken concerning me that which is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite and Bildad the Shuhite and Zophar the Naamathite went and did as Jehovah told them, and Jehovah accepted Job. And Jehovah turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends, and Jehovah gave Job twice as much as he had before. And all his brothers and all his sisters and all his previous acquaintances came to him and ate bread with him in his house. And they consoled and comforted him for all the misfortune that Jehovah had brought upon him. And each gave to him a piece of money, and each a gold ring. Thus Jehovah blessed Job's latter end more than his beginning, and he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camels and 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 female donkeys. And he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he named the first Jemimah, and the second Keziah, and the third Keren-Happuch. And in all the land no women were found as beautiful as the daughters of Job. And their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. And after this, Job lived 140 years, and he saw his children and his grandchildren, even 4 generations. And Job died, old and full of days.